Hello, my name is Ari Patel, and I am doing the AEC3414 leadership interview. So the person I decided to interview, her name is Yasina, and she is the assistant director for the Innovation Academy. And I chose Yasi. That's how I know her because I'm an Innovation Academy ambassador, and she is the direct head. She's the head for the ambassador program from the Innovation Academy office's side. And I picked her for two reasons, mainly because number one, the types of jobs she's held in the past. She's worked for biotech firms, worked for publishing companies, and also now she's moved back into academics. So it's interesting I wanted to see how her relationship with leadership and how her leadership style has changed over the years. She started working in 1995 and is still working right now, so she has about 18 years worth of experience. So my perceptions of the leader during the interview was overall very similar. I have a very similar leadership style to her as to making sure that we empower people and making sure that everybody has all the information that they need to be successful. And then once everybody has all the information, then we can say, okay, this is the end goal. We're going to help you get to that. Outside of that, some of the key leadership characteristics that we hit during the interview were, being influencing, being empathetic, and talking. So those were her three biggest things when she's talking about leadership, because you need to be able to influence your members so that they know what end goals that you need to go to and what end goal the organization wants to get to, and make sure that their personal end goal, what they think is the right thing, is the same thing as the organization's end goal. Empathy, to understand why somebody doesn't agree with the path that you're telling them to take, and to understand why, then you can find a better compromise. And talking is the most important part of any type of leadership, because it allows communication and allows the transference of ideas. Excuse me. So my perception as the individual, as a leader, I really gained a lot more respect for her, because she talked about breaking through the glass ceiling, and maybe as a male, I don't respect that as much as I should. And just hearing her talk about some of the personal testaments, especially when it came to her moving on from her job at the University of Miami School of Business, and how she felt literally at the glass ceiling, and the glass cliff was there because there were people above her in higher education who said Hispanic women cannot be there. And just to hear her say that, and hear that from somebody that I respect, that I really didn't expect to hear that from, really opened my eyes, and I have a lot more respect for her in that sense. And then for the last question, the key statements, I'm going to just kind of go through that while I go over the interview process and the interview questions I went over with her. So I opened up with a couple lowball questions, which was, who are you and what's your point of view on leadership? When I say point of view of leadership, I had to clarify that by saying, who do you lead on a day-to-day and on a monthly basis? So she's directly in charge of the Innovation Academy ambassadors. So think about us like cicerones / diplomats, but instead of for the entirety of the university, but for the Innovation Academy. So there are 30 of us, and she has to manage all of the affairs that we hold for the Innovation Academy. And then she's also in charge of 3 student advisors who do all of IA's marketing, do all of IA's graphics and stuff like that. And then she has a dotted connection, it's a technical term she used, to the 2 Innovation Academy advisors, as she's there to help them complete their jobs. And so those were kind of her 3 major places where she's acts in a leadership role. So the next question I asked is, what are your most important leadership characteristics? And again, I mentioned those earlier: is influence, empathy, and talking. How do you rate one question I asked is, when you look at somebody else, how do you rate / analyze their leadership style, and how do you say that it is, in your opinion, good or bad? And for her, the answer to this question is, how do you look at the members that they're leading? As a big proponent of servant leadership, she makes sure that, looking at the other members and making sure that they're satisfied and they're happy with what's going on in the organization. That's how she rates leadership. Not necessarily by what tasks and what goals are completed, but rather by the happiness of the members and making sure that overall most of the tasks are being hit on time. So the next question I asked her is, what's your personal / most awe-inspiring moment of leadership for you personally? And she had to go back to her time at when she was first out of college. She started working at the School of Business and her boss there is the person who revolutionized and really inspired her to become the type of leader that she is today. Because before then, in 1992, 1993, when she was graduating college, it had always been that more traditional style leadership that we always hear people talking about, of the strong-willed person, the way what they say is the right thing no matter what. I forgot what the exact technical term is, but anyways, that was kind of her interpretation on the leadership, and that women kind of deserve to be on the side and all that. And so she was trying to break that, and she thought she'd have to break that into whoever she's working for. But the person literally started working with her and asking her, hey, what are your goals? How can I help you? And that was really revolutionized leadership for her. So the next couple questions I asked was, either societally or based on just time and evolution. How do you think leadership has changed between two certain points? I had asked for her resume at this, asked to use her resume, so I could pick out a couple of what I thought were interesting leadership points that she could, com and con those. So I initially started off with University of Miami School of Business when she started her professional career, and then now to her journey right now. And the biggest thing that she mentioned was the glass ceiling, and how it's difficult for women these days to move up into higher tier leadership roles, but she feels at least she's broken through the glass ceiling, and she's doing her best to keep the ceiling open for others to come up behind her. And that's because, growing up, she was expected to do this, expected to do that, and she expected to be subservient. And when that first boss in the University of Miami School of Business, really opened her eyes and said, what do you want to do? That was really awe-inspiring for her. And the other place I picked was Advantage Publishing Inc. versus Angiotech Bio. And she said, and this was about a quarter of the way to 3/4 of the way through her career, and she said, at Advantage Publishing, I was working remotely, so I wasn't very much of a leadership role. But at Angiotech, that was an important part for me because that was when I really broke out of my shell and became the type of leader that I am today. I had been training for it, people had taught me about it, but I really wasn't 100% sure how to use it until I got to Angiobiotech, and kind of using that situational, feeling out what's going on in this area around her, and focusing on what problems she had to deal with. She felt that those were her most important things. And then the final question I asked her was, we talked a lot about from her beginning to the end. What about from 50% point halfway through her career to now? What was the biggest difference? And she felt that was just when she was starting to break out of the glass ceiling, but it still was there oppressing her up until that point. And then she felt that approximately 6 years ago, which is about 65% of the way through her career, that's when she broke the glass ceiling. That's when she was really able to blossom into the good leader that she is today. I'm just going to go over a couple more notes that I have on the side here. One of the major things that she mentioned is fear trigger for trying to make us see the difference. So can't be fearful of what different ideas are. Otherwise, we won't be able to see other people's ideas and evolve. Always check your locus of control. You'd never want to be overbearing. Always be willing to change to other people's ideas. Asking questions. That's honestly one of the most important things. You're talking. You're clarifying. Think what you have, what resources you have if you're misleading people. And understanding the details. That was another one of the big things. So overall, I had a really great interview with Yessie, and she really opened up my eyes as to perhaps the more feminine side of leadership, which I personally did not understand as much, because in high school I went through Boy Scouts, and all the leaders there are male, and I was leading males at the same time. So it was just this, eye-opening experience of hearing all the little things, like, the glass ceiling, or like how they come in with the mindset that they have to be subservient, and how that's changed over time into now how it's, mainly on the worker side to come up with the initiative. And that's how I've grown up, just knowing that instead of listening to somebody, and that's how it used to be, now I'm the one that has to come up with the initiative, and I personally like that a lot more. Again, my name's Ali Patel, and thank you, and have a good night.